Hello, this is Coding Gicha for full-stack developers. The default text editors built into most operating systems are limited in functionality, and the IDE tool is heavy. On the other hand, Sublime Text is a very lightweight text editor that allows for extensive functionality expansion through various packages and flexible key bindings, allowing you to create your own editor environment while maintaining high productivity. Cross-platform support is also attractive, which I personally find important. When you access sublimetext.com, you'll see the install button appropriate for our operating system. Since I'm installing on Ubuntu, I'll refer to the apt installation method. You need to install a GPG key. Copy the CLI command for installing the GPG key. Launch the terminal emulator. Paste the copied command and execute it. Register the stable channel repository. Paste the copied command and register the repository. The registered repository will be updated through an apt update. Install Sublime Text through apt. Launch Sublime Text. I'll pin to dash as it's my personal favorite GUI text editor. The provided GUI is essentially a top-down menu. This creates a minimalist and simple design, allowing you to focus more on the source code without being distracted. When icon buttons appear, your hand involuntarily moves to the mouse while typing, clicking them. This can easily break your rhythm as you move your hand back to the keyboard. Minimizing icon buttons and developing in a simple workspace reduces distractions, reduces disruption to your rhythm, and allows for a more spacious workspace, allowing you to focus more on your source code. Sublime Text allows you to install various packages. To install and manage packages, I'll install package control. Press the Alt key to underline the key that takes you directly to the corresponding menu. Press T to go to the Tools menu and select Install Package Control. Since some packages have dependencies on Python libraries, you may need to restart Sublime Text Editor to install them. After restarting Sublime Text, the package control message will appear after a short delay. A notification will also appear indicating that a restart is required. I've already restarted Sublime Text, but I'll do so again as instructed. I'll recommend some of my personal favorite packages. Many people recommend the Sidebar Enhancements package, but I personally don't, as Sublime Text's simple, minimalist features can actually make things more complex and cluttered. Even if you don't install the Sidebar Enhancements package, installing the File Icon package will make the file icons in the sidebar look beautiful. The Sidebar Enhancements package adds too many menus to the sidebar's context menu, making it cluttered. The only useful feature is moving files. Quick File Move solves this problem. When working with multiple files open, it can be difficult to find the location of a file in the sidebar. The Focus File on Sidebar package makes it easy to locate open file in the sidebar. I also recommend the editor config package, which helps maintain a consistent code style across various text editors and IDE tools. JSON files are a popular format these days because they allow data to be exchanged in a human-readable and system-parsable way. However, to reduce network traffic, whitespace is removed during actual exchange, making the actual data difficult for humans to read. The Pretty JSON package will convert the JSON file into a readable format. Since many tasks on Linux are performed in the terminal, I recommend the terminal package, which allows you to open a terminal from wherever you are working. The terminal package runs in a separate window because it uses the native terminal emulator. The Terminus package is an integrated terminal package that can be run within Sublime Text. I'll configure Sublime Text with my preferred settings and install packages. From the Preferences menu, select Settings. If you install the Focus file on Sidebar package, you can use the Ctrl-K and Ctrl-F shortcuts to focus on files open in the sidebar. If the sidebar is closed, it opens and focuses the file, but there's also a toggle that closes the sidebar when it's open. I'll set it so that the sidebar doesn't close when it's open. White space is an invisible character, so it's hard to tell if it's a space or a tab. I'll display white space as a symbol. If a file contains a mix of spaces and tabs, it will automatically detect them and convert them into a single pattern when saving. However, if you intentionally mix spaces and tabs, for example, it can mess up all the characters. I'll disable the automatic indentation detection feature. Some languages, like Korean, require characters to be twice as wide as English characters to maintain consistent spacing, so you may need to set a fixed width font for that language. Some fonts have narrow line spacing, making them feel cramped. In this case, increasing the padding top and bottom each line by 2 pixels will improve readability. The default editor color scheme is dark, but the rest of the GUI follows the system style, which can look awkward in some environments. I'll also set the theme to dark. Even without installing a separate theme package, the default theme provided by Sublime Text is excellent. Sublime Text will notify you when it's updated, but since I installed it with a PT on Ubuntu, updates happen automatically. This notification is unnecessary. Sublime Text's default font size is 10. While the trend these days is to increase the overall scale to accommodate higher resolutions, if you use the editor for configuration files and program coding, it's recommended to keep it at 10 to see more content. Saving will immediately apply the settings. The theme has been changed to dark, and the font has been changed. Tabs and spaces are now easily distinguishable by symbols. I'll also set my preferred key bindings, taking into account the installed packages. From the Preferences menu, select Key Bindings. I'll create a basic framework for setting up key bindings and then configure them. Personally, I try to match the shortcuts for Visual Studio Code and Sublime Text as much as possible. There's no shortcut set to return the font size to the default after reducing or increasing it. I set it to Ctrl 0 here, but since Ctrl 0 is the shortcut to focus to the file of the sidebar, I can't use it. After recording and editing the video, I realized I should have set a different shortcut like Ctrl Alt 0. In Visual Studio Code, the shortcut to toggle the integrated terminal to the bottom panel is Ctrl Grave. I'll set this to toggle the Terminus panel. If you're using Wayland with X window, you'll need a shortcut to toggle the menu bar. On Wayland, you shouldn't hide the Sublime Text menu bar because it conflicts with the Alt key when showing it. If you accidentally hide it, you'll need a shortcut to show it again. A shortcut to save all open files simultaneously is also useful. I'll also set a shortcut to close all tabs, leaving only the file I'm working on. I'll also set the shortcut to close all open tabs to the same key as in Visual Studio Code. I'll also set the toggle line break to the same key as in Visual Studio Code. I'll also set the shortcut to launch Pretty.json. Here I've set it to Shift-Alt-F, but since the format document shortcut in Visual Studio Code is Shift-Control-I, it's probably better to match that. The shortcut to launch terminal from an open file will be Shift-Alt-T. The shortcut to launch Nautilus from an open file will be Shift-Alt-Y. I'll save and apply the changes immediately. Some shortcut settings lines are long, so horizontal scrolling is required. Pressing Alt-0 toggles the line break state. I've been using my preferred shortcuts, but while making videos, I realized that Ctrl-Alt-0 and Shift-Control-I might be better for the font reset shortcut and the Pretty.json shortcut respectively. You can show the menu bar with the Alt key only when needed, so hiding it creates a more minimal and clean look. However, as mentioned earlier, in Wayland environments, if you show the Sublime Text menu bar with the Alt key, it will immediately hide when you hover over it with the mouse. If you show the Sublime Text menu bar with the Alt key and try to navigate to a desired menu with the arrow keys, it will also immediately hide. In Wayland environments, hiding the Sublime Text menu bar can be a frustrating situation as you'll never be able to use it again. The toggle menu shortcut solves this dilemma. Let's open the folder where you'll work on your project. Thanks to installing the file icon package, the file icons in the sidebar have been beautifully updated. Let's open a Vim file. Sublime Text displays color syntax appropriate to the file type. While it supports color syntax for most file types, some file types, like Vim files, don't. You can also install the color syntax you want through a package. Let's install Vim.l. Now, Vim files will display color syntax as well. Sublime Text UI is minimalistic overall. The sidebar context menu is also clean. Additional options are available for launching newly installed terminal package in the Terminus package. The option for launching the Quick File Move package is not visible in the sidebar context menu. You can launch it with the Shift-Alt-R shortcut. The full file path and name are displayed, and you can change them to your desired path or name. Let's launch the Terminus package from the sidebar context menu. The integrated terminal appears as a tab in the editor area. Unfortunately, you can't work on the terminal while viewing the file you're editing. I've set the shortcut for launching the Terminus package in the bottom panel to Control Grave. Now you can work on the integrated terminal while viewing the file you're editing. When you need to work with the native terminal in a separate window, you can run the terminal package. You can also configure individual installed packages. The Package Settings section under the Preferences menu displays packages that provide settings. On Linux, you don't need to configure each package separately. As an example, let's select Terminal Settings. Up to Ubuntu 24.04 LTS, the default X terminal emulator is GNOME Terminal. If you prefer a different terminal emulator, you can configure it in the Terminal section. Rather than manually setting your preferred terminal emulator, it's better to set it to X terminal emulator and then configure the X terminal emulator. I'm currently using Tixis, but Tixis is available starting from Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, so if you want to use it on Ubuntu 24.04 LTS, you have to install it via Flatpak, and the terminal emulator installed via Flatpak cannot be set as an X terminal emulator. Configuring Tixis as an X terminal emulator requires a bit of a workaround. To avoid misunderstanding, I won't go into the terminal settings here. To launch a native terminal, you need to select Open Terminal here from the context menu in the sidebar. Having to move your hands away from the keyboard to find and click the mouse can be a bit distracting, so I've configured the Shift-Alt-T shortcut. This launches the native terminal from the open file location. I've also configured Nautilus to be launched via a shortcut. Pressing Shift-Alt Y launches Nautilus from the open file location. Avoiding mouse usage can help you achieve super fast productivity. Let's also configure a shortcut to launch Terminus, which allows you to launch the integrated terminal. I'll set the Shift-Control Grave shortcut to launch Terminus. I'll set it to launch Terminus at the location of the open file. The Control Grave shortcut launches Terminus in the bottom panel. If you add the Shift key and press Shift-Control Grave, Terminus will launch in the Editor tab at the location of the open file. Sublime Text allows you to work on multiple projects simultaneously by adding multiple project folders. The menu says Add Folder to Project, but I think Add Project Folder to Workspace would be more appropriate. Now, there are two projects in the sidebar. Let's save the current state of work as a workspace. Press Ctrl-Alt-P to display a list of saved projects and workspaces. While Sublime Text can be used for projects requiring compilation, it's especially useful for projects using scripting languages or front-end development where high-speed productivity is crucial. It's also a useful editor for editing configuration files. On Windows, CLI support is lacking, requiring multiple, cluttered windows and cumbersome file navigation to edit configuration files. Sublime Text may be the editor of choice for Windows. Thank you for watching.